At the adobe chapel in Copper Ridge, the bell rang 3 times. The bride waited. The groom's horse came back without him. A folded note was tied to the saddle horn with a strip of white ribbon. By sunset, every wagon had rolled away except one. It belonged to Noah Mercer, a quiet horse rancher who had not come for the wedding and had no reason to stay. He found the bride beneath the chapel's cracked wooden cross, her veil dragging through the dust. Noah removed his hat. "Is there a lamp burning for you tonight?" The young woman looked toward the empty road. "No." Noah glanced at the darkening sky, then at the single carpetbag beside her feet. "Then mine will." Neither of them understood it yet, but that lamp would remain lit for the rest of their lives. Her name was Emma Hale. She was 26, steady with a needle, and far stronger than the cream-colored wedding dress made her look. The hem was brown with Arizona dust. Around her shoulders she wore a faded plum shawl, the last thing her mother had made before dying. 6 months earlier, Thomas Barron's letters had found Emma above a dress shop in St. Joseph. He promised riverland, blue shutters, and a kitchen window facing west. With no parents left and no home that needed her, Emma mistook a detailed promise for a certain future. She sold her sewing machines, mailed him $212 for supposed roof repairs, and traveled nearly 900 miles with one trunk and a wedding dress sewn by lamplight. The people of Copper Ridge filled the chapel with flowers. The baker made a small cake, the blacksmith polished the bell, but Thomas never appeared. Near noon, his bay gelding wandered into town riderless. The note tied to the saddle contained only 11 words. "I cannot do this. Do not follow me. Forgive me." There was no explanation, no money, no direction home. The eastbound stage had one empty seat, but Emma could not pay the fare. Thomas had her savings. Her trunk was being held at the freight office. In her carpetbag she carried a Bible, 3 needles, her mother's silver thimble, and 87 cents. One by one, the wagons departed. No one meant to abandon her. Each person had children, animals, or a long road home before dark. Yet good intentions do not always look different from desertion when the sun is going down. That was when Noah Mercer passed the chapel. Noah was 35, weathered, broad-shouldered, and quiet. He raised desert horses and never tried to break fear with force. He treated Emma with the same patience. He did not ask what she had done wrong or offer empty wisdom. He only asked whether she had somewhere safe to sleep. When she said no, he offered one. Emma hesitated. A woman alone on the frontier learned to measure every kindness for the price hidden beneath it. Noah seemed to understand. "You may ride beside me," he said, "or in the back, whichever feels safer." Emma chose the back. They left as the first stars appeared over the red hills. Only once did Noah turn. "My daughter is 8. Her name is June. She will ask too many questions." For the first time that day, Emma almost smiled. Too many questions are usually the beginning of a good mind. The Mercer ranch sat in a shallow valley where mesquite gave way to grass. The house was adobe and rough timber, with a deep porch and a roof patched in 3 shades of tin. A brass lamp burned in the front window. June opened the door before the wagon stopped. She was thin and freckled, with chestnut braids and bare feet beneath a blue calico nightdress. She stared at Emma's wedding gown. "Did you marry her?" Noah nearly dropped the carpetbag. "No." "Was she supposed to marry somebody?" "Yes," Emma answered. "Did he die?" "No." June considered that. "Then he is foolish." Emma laughed. It was a small, surprised sound, but it was the first laughter the house had heard from a grown woman in years. Noah showed her to a narrow room with a blue and white quilt. "The door locks from the inside," he said. "You may stay until you decide what comes next." That night, Emma lay awake listening to hooves, leather, and wind moving against the adobe walls. The lamp in the front window continued to burn. For the first time since reading Thomas's note, she allowed herself to cry where no one could watch. At dawn, Emma found Noah losing a battle with biscuit dough. "Papa can train a stallion," June said, "but Bread is stronger than he is." Emma washed her hands. "I have already been defeated by one man this week. I refuse to be defeated by his biscuits." June laughed. The moment was ordinary, and that was what made it powerful. The world had not ended. It had simply become a place Emma did not recognize. On the 4th day, Noah returned with Emma's trunk. "You paid the freight charge." "It was $4.60. "I cannot repay you." "Then do not repay me today." "I will repay you. I believe you." Pity would have been easier to resist. His confidence in her made refusal feel like cowardice. Inside the trunk were linen sheets embroidered with the initials E.B. Emma cut the B from one corner and restitched the cloth into hand towels. June watched. Does it hurt to cut out a letter? Sometimes. Can you sew another one over it? Not always. But you can make the cloth useful again. A washed-out bridge delayed Emma's departure. Then the schoolteacher brought torn uniforms, and a rancher's wife ordered a riding skirt. Days became weeks. The wedding dress went to the bottom of the trunk, while a sewing table appeared near the front window. Noah refused rent. Emma refused charity. June settled the argument by suggesting Emma prevent Noah from cooking. Soon Emma was earning her own money, helping with lessons, and placing desert marigolds on the table. Even the broken clock began ticking again. Emma learned that Noah's wife, Caroline, had died of pneumonia 5 years earlier. June had been 3. Noah had buried Caroline beneath 2 cottonwoods and locked the parlor where her piano stood. Emma did not open it. She understood that grief was private property. It could be overgrown and dangerous and still belong to the person carrying it. Instead, she sang while she sewed. June began humming first. Noah began lingering near the doorway second. By autumn, the Mercer house no longer sounded empty. Then Emma found the ranch ledger. Noah owned 48 broodmares, 3 stallions, 17 young horses, and land that looked generous until drought reduced the spring to mud. He owed $720 to the bank. If he missed the December payment, the bank could take the lower pasture and the breeding stock. At supper, Emma watched him divide the last beef between June and her, leaving himself beans. Later, she confronted him on the porch. "Why did you bring me here when you were already struggling? Because you had nowhere safe to go. And if feeding another person costs you the ranch." Noah looked toward the lamp. "Then I sell a horse." "You will not sell a horse to keep me comfortable. No, I would sell one to keep you safe. Comfort is more expensive." His voice softened. "I know what it is to have one night divide life into before and after. Someone fed June and me after Caroline died. Someone kept the lamp lit because I had forgotten how. I was not doing you a favor. I was repaying a debt that kindness never asked me to repay." After that night, Emma stopped planning only for escape. She designed sturdy riding skirts with reinforced seams and hidden pockets. Orders increased. By October, she had repaid every cent Noah spent on her. She wrote "debts settled" in the ledger. Beneath it, Noah added, "Not all debts require settling." Their lives began fitting together. He built her a wider sewing table. She repaired his saddle. He taught her to read the sky for dust storms. She taught him that brown sugar should be measured, not guessed. One cold morning, a mare went into labor with the foal turned wrong. Noah worked in the straw while Emma held the lantern. "Get back," he ordered. "Tell me what to do." She steadied the mare until a black foal finally drew breath. In the lantern light, Noah realized they had begun sharing burdens as if their lives already belonged beside each other. The knowledge frightened Noah. He became careful, polite, and distant. Then the town began to speak. A woman could not live under a widower's roof forever. A child could become attached. A bride abandoned at one altar should not appear too eager for another. The gossip reached June at school. The next Sunday, Noah, Emma, and June entered the same chapel where Emma had been abandoned. The minister preached about mercy. The congregation practiced judgment. Afterward, 3 elders called Noah aside. Emma heard only fragments through the open window. Reputation, child, marriage, or separate households. That evening, Noah found her at the sewing table. "I can give you my name," he said. "June loves you. The town would stop speaking. I would never ask anything you did not wish to give." Emma felt every word land wrong. Kindness had opened his door. Duty was now offering her a place inside it. But love was nowhere in the room. "Do you love me?" Noah looked toward the locked parlor. "I do not know what I am allowed to call it." Emma stood. "I will not become your wife because the town has made my presence inconvenient. Thomas feared marriage, so he left. The town fears gossip, so it wants you to marry me. You fear loving someone after Caroline, so you offer me duty instead." Her eyes filled. "I will not be another room in this house that stays closed because opening it hurts." Before dawn, Emma packed her trunk. A dress shop in Prescott had offered her work in her upstairs stairs. June ran into the yard clutching the brass lamp. "You cannot take the lamp," Noah said gently. June held it toward Emma. "Then how will she know where home is?" Emma knelt and embraced her. "I know where it is." Noah drove Emma to the station. On the platform, she waited for him to say what he had not said. He waited for her to ask. Neither did. The train carried her west. In Prescott, Emma built a new life through practical riding skirts and traveling coats. Within 2 months, she owned a second-hand sewing machine and a bank account in her own name. For the first time, her future belonged to her. Then evening came and she remembered the brass lamp. June wrote every Sunday, "Papa says the beans are edible. They are not." The black foal follows him everywhere. The lamp is still in the window. One letter said, "Papa goes into Mama's parlor now." Noah was opening rooms. He was simply doing it after she had gone. One afternoon, a stage company superintendent named Walter Sloan entered Emma's shop with a torn sleeve and a temper. His company had lost 2 teams on the Black Canyon route. Northern horses were strong but panicked on narrow desert trails. "How many do you need?" Emma asked. 18 to start. "Fast horses, sensible horses." Emma smiled. "I know a man who trains fear without beating it." She described Noah's stock and made a business case. Sloan agreed to inspect the ranch. Emma wrote Noah, "A stage company needs desert-bred teams. The superintendent arrives February 14th. This is not charity. Have 18 ready." Then she added, "June says your beans remain a danger to the public. The order could save the lower pasture." When the stagecoach reached the ranch, Sloan stepped down first. Emma stepped down second, wearing a charcoal traveling suit and the plum shawl. Not tired, not broken, certain. June reached her before Noah did. Sloan tested the horses on steep ground. Through flapping canvas and crashing tin, one gray gelding stopped at a broken plank and waited for Noah's signal instead of bolting. He selected 20 horses. The $900 deposit reached the bank the next morning. The ranch survived that evening. Noah found Emma on the porch. The brass lamp burned behind her. "You saved the ranch." "No, I introduced your horses to a man who needed them. You did the work. I would not have reached him without you. That does not make you rescued." Her voice softened. "You taught me that." Noah removed his hat. "When I asked you to marry me, I thought I was being honorable. You were being afraid." "Yes." He looked toward Caroline's hill. "For 5 years I believed loving anyone again meant I had loved her less. Then you came here in a torn wedding dress, and June laughed at breakfast, and the clock started ticking, and songs returned." His voice shook. "I loved you when you held that mare's head. I loved you when you argued over $4.60. I loved you at the station. And I was a coward." Emma watched him. "I came for the contract. I know. That is not the same as coming back for you. I know. And if you leave tomorrow, I will still be grateful. I said it before fear chose for me." Noah did not reach for her. That restraint made her trust him. Emma stepped closer. "I wore the plum shawl because I hoped you would remember the night you found me. I remember every part of it. I came because June wrote about the lamp. I light it every evening. I know." Emma placed her hand in his. "Do not ask me to marry you tonight." Noah's face fell. "I need to know you can love me in daylight, not only when you fear I will disappear. What should I do?" "Court me." June opened the door. "I can explain it to him," she offered. For the first time, the future did not arrive as rescue duty or escape. It arrived as a choice. Noah courted Emma properly. He brought badly cut wildflowers, listened when she spoke about her work, and answered when she asked about Caroline. In spring, he led her to the front gate, where a brass lamp hung from a new iron bracket. "The window was difficult to see from the road," he explained, "so you moved the light closer. A person should not have to reach the porch before knowing the door is open." Then Noah handed her a partnership agreement. Half the future stage contract profits would belong to a business carrying both their names. Emma could open a sewing room in town or remain at the ranch. Her money would stay hers, her work would be named. "I am not asking you to disappear into my life," he said. "I am asking whether we can build one that belongs to both of us." Emma read the paper twice. "Now you may ask." Noah dropped to one knee in the mud. "Emma Hale, will you marry me because I love you, because June loves you, and because I want every ordinary morning I can still be given?" "Yes," June burst from behind the water trough. "I knew she would." They married in the Copper Ridge Chapel 1 year and 3 days after Emma's first wedding failed. The same bell rang. This time Noah was waiting before the first guest arrived. June carried the rings in the blue bowl that had once held Emma's first sewing payments. Emma entered wearing no veil, only an ivory dress and the plum shawl over one arm. When she reached the altar, Noah took her hands. A year earlier, those hands had held 11 words of abandonment. Now they held a man who had learned that love could honor the dead without joining them. "My door was open before I knew your name," Noah said. "My life is open now because I know your heart. Wherever we live, there will always be a lamp for the person who has nowhere else to go." Emma smiled through tears. "I came west believing home was a place someone promised to give me. You taught me that home is built by people who keep choosing one another after the promise becomes work. When they kissed, the chapel bell rang so loudly that the horses outside lifted their heads. No wagon left empty, no note waited on a saddle. The years brought droughts, sick horses, unpaid bills, and grief. They also brought a growing stage contract, June's little school, and a guest house beside the barn. Emma kept blankets, coffee, broth, and spare clothing for travelers arriving with nothing. By the time their hair turned gray, more than 100 people had slept beneath the Mercer roof. At the gate, the brass lamp burned every night. When June's students asked why her family wasted oil on a road that was usually empty, she answered, "The road is empty only until someone needs the light." Long after Noah and Emma were gone, Copper Ridge still told the story of the bride beneath the chapel cross and the horseman who stopped. Thomas had promised Emma a house with blue shutters. Noah gave her a door she could open from either side, and the night she believed her future had vanished. Down a dusty road became the first night of a home that would leave its light burning for everyone who came after her.